Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel and this is the Hour of the Raven, your channel for everything Ravenloft, RPG, Dungeons and Dragons, and horror. Today we'll explore the domain of Invidia, a kingdom dominated by violent and passionate tyrants, divided by a bloody civil war and the horrors of genocide. Before we start, I would like to make a recommendation. I recently had access to the adventure Phantoms of Siraj, written by Jason Bowers and currently available on the DM's Guild. The adventure is full of content, beautiful illustrations, and offers an interesting and more modern look of the domain of Srihaji. Although for now we are far away from the exotic lands of Srihaji, who knows where the mist will take us in the future. Are you ready to explore the domain of Invidia? Join us as we explore these lands seized by violent conflicts, and look for a solution and cure to our curse of lycanthropy. Hour of the Raven. Invidia is a Ravenloft domain marked by rulers seized by violent emotions and devastated by a bloody civil war. The domain is an excellent portrait of a land overtaken by internal disputes, ethnic conflicts, and exacerbated hatred and passions. The domain is situated in the High Middle Ages, in the Chivalric Age, and by the name given to its characters and locations, I consider that its greatest real-world inspiration to be medieval Italy, although many other regions of our world can serve as inspiration for Invidia as well. The domain of Invidia is located in the south-central region of the Ravenloft core, the continent where most of the domains of the setting are clustered. Originally, the lands of Invidia bordered the domain of Citicus to the south, the realm of Gundarak to the east, the domain of Verbrek to the west, and the lands of Arkandale into the northwest. After the Grand Conjunction, the domain of Arkandale was absorbed by Verbrek, and the domain of Invidia invaded and absorbed part of the domain of Gundarak, passing to border the realm of Borka to the north, and Barovia to the west. The lands of Invidia are full of dense forests, hills, and wide rivers. The kingdom is sparsely inhabited, and although it contains two very large cities, it is mostly taken over by small communities and farms spread over its extension. Much of its territory is covered by forests of large trees and dense vegetation. To the north, there is an ancestral forest of oaks and pines, known as Padurdus, or the Ducal Forest, having this name because it was known as the hunting territory of the tyrant Duke Gundar, the former Dark Lord of the domain of Gundarak. These forests are now home to Vistani refugees, Gundarakite rebels, and outlaws. Despite being the constant target of attack by forces of Malokio, these forests, full of rebels and monstrous creatures, remain untamed by the tyrant. The dense and dark Dreadwood occupy the central area of Invidia, growing over a region of hills. The population of Invidia avoid these forests, as the place has a haunted reputation for sheltering spirits, wolves, trolls, and fairy creatures. The capital of the kingdom, the city of Karina, is south of the forest known as Spaded Loop, also known as Vulpwood or Wolfwood. The proximity to the capital makes the region inhabited and full of small villages, despite being constantly plagued by wolves and werewolves from Verbrek, as well as the presence of the undead. To the south, on the border with Citicus, is located the intimidating Red Forest, with tall and majestic trees. This place is inhabited by a few rebels and outlaws, but has a reputation for being home to strange creatures and supernatural forces, which drive communities away from the woods. Finally, between the Gunda and Nara rivers, there is the Mantie Padur, or the Mental Woods. This forest, which once belonged to the domain of Gundarak, is avoided by most of the inhabitants of Invidia. The legend says that its dense forests and closed vegetation are inhabited by a powerful witch and sorceress who can rebuild the future for a terrible price. The geography of Invidia is marked by hills, which extend over almost all its territory. Despite this rugged terrain, only to the north of the domain the hills are high enough to be considered mountains. On the border with the kingdom of Borca, we have the Bleak Sisters, near the Blightwoods, and the rugged Prestige Mountains, and travelers coming from the north usually cross between both these mountain ranges to enter Invidia. In the center of the kingdom, there is a range of hills with granite slopes called Creusette, also known as the Crucible. This region of difficult mobility is uninhabited and serves as a natural barrier between the tyrannical government of Malokio Adair and the rebels of Invidia. The Husodil surround the castle Unadora and are a haunted location, also called Sanges Hodil or Bloody Hills. These hills were the scene of a massacre when Duke Gundar crucified and dismembered the noble rebels who revolted against him in the Third Unwise Rebellion. Invidia is crossed by wide rivers of calm currents, which allow ample navigation through its beds. The main river that runs through Invidia is the Muzad River, which creates a fertile valley in the center of the kingdom. Around this river and its tributaries are most of the communities of Invidia, and it is an important means of transport and trade between Invidia and its neighboring kingdoms. From the lands of Vambrak comes the Noisette River, which before joining the Muzad River passes through the capital of Invidia, the city of Karina, having an intense river trade. From the mountains known as the Bleak Sisters come the rivers known as Limbasarp or the Serpent Tongue. These two tortuous arms join in a single river before joining the Muzad, and are known for the large number of fish and their fishing riverside communities. To the north, the Bone Silver River serves as a natural border with the realm of Borca. Finally, coming from the old region of the domain of Gundarak and current Barovia, comes the Narov and Gundar rivers. The Narov River flows through sparsely populated regions and woods before joining the Gundar River, and few communities take chances on these inhospitable lands. The Gundar River is also widely navigated by traders from Barovia, despite the troubled relations between these two kingdoms. Despite intense river navigation, Invidia is still crossed by two main roads. The Duke's roads come from Borca, crossing near the mountains of the Bleak Sisters, and going around the ducal forest until it reaches the city of Curicolo. The roads then curve to the southwest and goes towards the capital Karina, and from there it proceeds to the domain of Citicus. No bridges crosses the rivers, and travelers must cross the water by ferry. The other, the Gundar Road, leaves from Curicolo and crosses the forest through the old territory of Gundarak until it reaches the city of Zainabur in Barovia. This road is currently controlled by Gundarakite rebels that occupy the castle Unadora, who plunder or demand tribute from its travelers. The climate in Invidia is temperate. The domain is known for its long hot summers, humid springs, and cold rainy winters. At the end of autumn and during all the winter, cold winds blow in these lands, and sometimes a cold fog descends over the villages. The flora of Invidia varies according to its regions. To the north, forests are dominated by pine, oaks, and maples. The undergrowth vegetation is dense, full of clovers, blackberries, and ferns. The constant humidity and decomposing vegetation generates a good field for the growth of fungi of all kinds, and among them is the hermit shaw, a grey fungus that can be used to create sleeping potions and potent poisons, capable of inducing a deep coma in their victims. The central region of Invidia has plenty of oak, birch, and ash, as well as a dense undergrowth full of small berries. Many inhabitants of this region of Invidia maintain orchards with apples and peach. The vegetation south of the Muzad River near the border of Citicus, seems primeval and ancestral, and its tall trees are covered with mosses and fungi. Reports point to the existence of carnivorous plants in their closed woods, and few venture to explore the forest beyond the road that cuts through it. The fauna of Invidia is rich and vast, and has deer, badgers, wolverines, moses and foxes. Small rodents hide in the undergrowth vegetation, and flocks of birds dominate the sky, such as crows, starlings, eagles and hawks. Its riverbanks have salamanders, frogs and a multitude of snakes, although most have no poison. The region is also infested with packs of wolves that seems not to fear men, especially during the winter. To the north, cougars, also known as mountain lions, prowl in the hills. In addition to the natural beasts, many legends dominate the folklore of the people of Invidia, and shape-shifting creatures and werewolves abound in their imagination. In the mysterious forest near the border of Citicus, legends tell of macabre fairies, strange lycanthropes, and even shadow unicorns. The population of Invidia cannot be easily described by their appearance, since they have a varied number of characteristics as the result of the miscegenation of its original population. Although many have characteristics in common with the population of Barovia and Cartacas, we can identify among the inhabitants of Invidia hairs ranging from black to light brown, and skin complexion ranging from dark brown to pale tones. Men usually wear hair above their shoulders, and women wear long hairs. Despite the miscegenation of its population, we can still find some distinct ethnic groups among them, such as the Gundarakites who live in the north, that have tanned complexion, stocky build, and both men and women wear long hair, and the growing community of Falcovians who do not mix with other groups. The population of Invidia does not usually dress extravagantly, and nobles and peasants usually dress in a simple and practical way, with neutral colors varying only in the quality of the fabrics. Men wear tunics, pants and boots, and women often wear loose blouses and layered skirts. Both sexes usually wear ornaments sparingly, with men wearing earrings in one ear. These austere garments give way to extravagance only at celebrations and festivals, when the Invidians dress in colorful fabrics and extravagant clothes, often accompanied by wooden masks and exotic ornaments of feathers and colored stones. At weddings, the bride and groom colorful and ornate clothes, and the guests also strive to stand out. The clothes are used by the bride and groom only once at the wedding, and then kept in the house as symbol of their union. The Gundarakites who inhabit Invidia usually maintain their culture, and men dress in a loose blouse and pants, and women wear long skirts and shawls. Single men wear long beards, and married women adorn their hair with colorful scarves. The official language of Invidia is the Balak language, but many descendants of Cartacas also speak the Vazi as their second language. The Gundarakites keep their native tongue, the Luktar, alive, and the Falcovians also speak their native language, although every inhabitant eventually learns to speak Balak out of necessity. Finally, the Mordantish language is studied by nobles and academics. Invidians have an explosive temper and live their emotions with great intensity. Love and hate sometimes are interconnected and inseparable feelings, and it's said that an Invidian never forgets a sleep, being able to hold a grudge and disagreement for entire generations. Blood feuds between families have already led countless to a violent death, and a night at the tavern is considered tedious if at least one fight does not occur. Given their passionate nature, Invidians get married early and usually on an impulsive basis. Reports of infidelity, duels, revenge, and scandals that result from these intense passions also abound. Invidians are skillful workers, and most of them are widely trained for numerous outdoor activities, such as woodcutting, farming, and animal husbandry. Although there are no major differences between the behavior of nobles and peasants, there is increasing social tension in society. Most titles of nobility are passed on in hereditary form, or as rewards given by Mallochio Adair to his most loyal servants. Education is viewed with suspicion among the peasants of Invidia, and usually only nobles learn to read and write. Outsiders are viewed with suspicion, and Invidia's society is known for its intolerance and prejudice, especially against the Vistani. This aggressive behavior has always been stimulated by Gabriel Adair and his son Mallochio, who encouraged the spread of rumors and lies to spread hatred and fear against the Vistani. Invidians get together to relax in their taverns, which are large community centers, wide and brightly illuminated. They drink, dance, and sing very loudly, especially at their festivals. Their cuisine is remarkably diverse, and common dishes involve soups, stews, and all kinds of meat, such as pigs, sheep, cattle, chicken, and fish. Beers are the most common drink among Invidians, who also appreciate the wines produced in their wineries, and people with little tolerance for alcoholic beverages are viewed with disdain. Invidia's architecture varies a lot according to the size and wealth of its communities. Small villages have wooden or stone buildings. In large cities, the style of the constructions is very similar to the Barovian, with tall triangular roofs with wooden tiles. The buildings are usually tall and thin, with up to 3 floors, and many are in poor condition and at times seems leaning at odd angles. Towers, cupolas, and ornate gables adorn the buildings of the villas and mansions of the rich, who allow themselves to admire such architectural flourishes. Invidians have a superstitious view of magic, and most of them believe that magic is an evil force. They distinguish between what they call miracles, spells of divine origin that are tolerated, and sorcery, spells of arcane magic, seen with a lot of fear. Users of arcane magic must be careful not to cast their spells in public, or they may have to respond to angry mobs. As a result, many of the arcane spellcasters of Invidia live in seclusion, but their presence is tolerated in the outskirts of villages, and many secretly seek their help with potions and spells. Druids are viewed with suspicion, but their nature-based magic is well received by peasants. The practice of necromancy is illegal, and the legends of the undead abound in the folklore of Invidia. Those who dare to practice such arts are rarely brought to court, and most often end up facing lynching and the gallows in the hands of an angry mob. The people of Invidia claim to be devout, but religion takes very little time in their daily routine. The main religion in Invidia is the faith of Ezra, with the bastion of Borca being the most influential in the region. A single Ezra temple officially exists in Invidia, and is located on the road between the capital Carina and the city of Beltis. Although Ezra's faith is widespread in Invidia, the faith of Hala are still carried out secretly in the domain. The devotees of this faith has been pursued as witchcraft practitioners since the days of the tyrant Bacolis, but belief in this religion still survives, hidden in the layers of society, and many practice their faith in secret, in distant places and forgotten ruins. Invidia's economy was never centralized, but this circumstance has changed with Mallochio's leadership. With the need to support and feed his troops and collect taxes, he has been stimulating agricultural production, and the productive farms of Invidia has started to export grains such as barley, oats, wheat, and rye. Invidia's biggest export products, however, come from its wineries and distilleries, and its wine and beers are famous in the neighboring kingdoms. Little mining activity is done in the kingdom, but some sulfur and salt are extracted. Nvidia still depends on importing manufactured products, but Malokio has encouraged the opening of forges and other workshops in Carina. Finally, the kingdom benefits greatly from trade, taking advantage of the fact that the realm is in a central position for river commerce with other domains. Its main trading partner is the Kingdom of Porca, but the reaction to Malokio's extermination programs may unbalance this relationship. The realm of Nvidia is plunged into chaos and conflict, and the excesses and brutality of its rulers have made it a polarized and divided land. Currently, its most powerful and tyrannical master is Lord Malokio Adair, who takes the name Dukar as his title, but is called by the population as the Scourge of the Vistani, and also the Traitor King for having deposed his own mother. Rumors of his supernatural origin and sinister powers evoke the population's fear and superstition, but he has ruled with an iron fist and conducts a violent extermination program of the Vistani, while trying to unify his kingdom by military force. He is expanding his army, training troops with the aid of hired Falkovian mercenaries. To this day, he has not been successful in unifying his kingdom. His mother and former ruler of Nvidia, Gabriel Adair, is in league with the Gundarakit rebellion that control an important part of the territory and occupies the castle Onadora. In order to rule the unstable land of Nvidia, Malokio had to share some of his power, and a chamber of nobles supposedly advises him in his decisions. In reality, this chamber does not hold true power. Malokio dictates his decrees and orders as he sees fit, and this chamber only formally approves his deliberations. The real source of Malokio's power is his military forces, in which he invested much of the kingdom's treasure. To improve and expand his army, Malokio hired Falkovian mercenaries, hoping to emulate the military might of that domain, for whom he shows great admiration. Its military power is sustained by heavy taxes and fees, and its large number of soldiers impose absolute control over villages and communities, enforcing his laws. His government does not tolerate dissidents, and Malokio created a secret police, the Lord's Men, who infiltrate society, acting as informants and loyal defenders of Malokio. In lands still controlled by the Gundarakite rebels, Gabriel Adair's control takes place in a more subtle way, which seems to play with the interests of different factions, and play games of seduction and manipulation. All wanderings through Nvidia point to a turbulent and bloody past. Evidence suggests that its first Dark Lord, the tyrant Bakolis, may have been a powerful werewolf. Perhaps, by researching the past of this land, we can find clues to our cursed condition of lycanthropy. Following the Duke Road, we find a great confluence of people heading toward the capital Carina for the great annual Harvest Festival. Join us, subscribe to this channel, and activate notifications, and we will explore its crowded streets, looking for answers as to the mysterious past and history of this conflicting domain.